Welcome to Behind the Curtain, Nashville's movers, shakers,
and tastemakers.
Brought to you by Cord Real Estate, your key to the heart of Nashville. I'm Steve Luther alongside my co-host Van Hoy.
Here we peel back the layers of Nashville's vibrant scene, sitting down with the innovators, creators, and leaders who shape our city. From music to business and everything in between, we dive into the journeys that have brought them to where they are today.
We're here to uncover the stories behind the success, the passion driving their pursuits, and why they've chosen Nashville as their stage. It's about the people who dream big, push boundaries, and make this city truly unique.
So join us as we explore the heart and soul of Nashville through the eyes of those who know it best.
Well, today we're pleased to feature Sean Patton, an accomplished keynote speaker, leadership trainer, and executive coach who is passionate about empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their full potential. As the founder of Stronger Leaders, Stronger Profits, Sean has dedicated his career to creating elite leadership mindsets that drive substantial business success. Drawing from over 2 decades of leadership experience, including a distinguished career as a Green Beret, Sean combines rigorous military discipline with innovative leadership strategies to transform corporate environments. His approach is centered on building leaders who are not only adept at navigating complex challenges, but also committed to fostering sustained growth and profitability. Sean, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump in. I want to hear about being a Green Beret. Thank you for your service, by the way.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, so 3 weeks out of high school, I grew up in a small town in Kansas, outside Kansas City, and I went to West Point and spent 4 years there, and then spent 10 years as an active officer. And that's how I ended up here in Middle Tennessee. My first duty station was Fort Campbell, Kentucky, about 45 minutes up the road, with the 101st Airborne Division. I was a rifle platoon leader and a scout and sniper platoon leader. And then I went to Special Forces Assessment Selection, got selected, 2 years of training, get your Green Beret, happy to get stationed back at Fort Campbell at 5th Special Forces Group. So I was lucky enough to command 2 different detachments while I was there, a regular team and then a underwater infiltration team, and got out in 2015 to chase my entrepreneurial dreams.
Underwater.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I was thinking Special Forces out of Fort Campbell. Is that like the black helicopters I see?
So this is an important distinction we should have here.
Because they come over my house all the time.
For the American
Especially
people.
late at night.
Late at night. Okay, yeah. So you must live on the kind of northwest side of town? Yep.
Yeah.
So the umbrella term for is special operations. So special operations is Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Air Force pararescue jumpers. Like that's all part of special operations. And under that umbrella at Fort Campbell is the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, or the Night Stalkers. Those are the black helicopters.
Night Stalkers. I knew it.
So they're like the premier helicopter pilots and unit in the Army. They flew the Bin Laden raid. Like they do all the Delta. They do.
I gotta make a note.
Yeah, they're the best
Night Stalkers.
Night Stalkers. You see,
I'm not gonna Google it because I don't want to be on the list.
Yeah, so they're a Special Operations Aviation Regiment. So Special Forces technically is just the Army Green Berets. So that's what I was a part of, and we, it's funny, people sort of think like, well, how, where's that above or below? You've got SEALs and Rangers. They're like, it's like it's some sort of like linear thing that we're all climbing some same ladder. Yeah. But that would make no sense to have these redundant capabilities. So, every Special Operations unit, and really every unit in the military, but especially in Special Operations, has a very distinct mission set. They're designed around that. Mm-hmm. So, Green Berets we're the ones charged with unconventional warfare. So think guerrilla warfare, insurgency warfare. We operate in 12-man teams. We're regionally aligned. So this Special Forces group is aligned with the Middle East and Southwest Asia. So I had 12 guys on my team, and everyone spoke Arabic or Farsi.
Wow.
And
I speak Southern.
That's its own special dialect.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I was super lucky to be a part of that. And it's interesting now being in the leadership development space I'm in. I'm really lucky that sort of the first half of my career was spent in the big Army, the regular Army.
Right.
And the second half was spent in these small Special Operations teams, because I will tell you that the culture, the systems, the mentality is for like the regular military or the Army is basically corporate America. It's the same sort of thing, right? You have to, it's almost like the Department of Defense is basically the biggest corporation in the country is how it's run.
Right.
So you have to have standard systems and processes and
Of
very
course.
defined roles and everyone, that sort of thing. Right. And then in Army Special Forces, that is much more like the startup world. Like it's, you've got a small group of elite people who are doing 3 or 4 different jobs at one time.
Right.
They're very bought into the mission. They're highly trained. They're motivated. They already have experience. That's another thing that separates really Green Berets from other special operations units. Just as an example, like average age on a SEAL platoon is probably 24, 25 maybe. When I showed up to take command, which I was the commander of my first team, I was 28 years old and I was the youngest guy on the team.
Oh, wow.
So the average age on a Green Beret team is more like 30, 31. So it's just a different mission set.
Very old.
Yeah.
So old.
Ancient. I know. It's like when they talk about NFL players.
Right.
Like, we go over the hill. He's 29. I'm like, oh my God.
I know. They're so rude. So rude.
Now I'm sure there's still healthy competition between all the special ops.
Oh, of course, yeah, of course. And being a West Point grad, the Army Navy, rivalry is real.
Yeah.
And of course, yeah, we all talk trash between each other of who's better at what.
Sure.
But it's really, we could sit here. I could say, again, SEALs. If you're on a ship or inside of a tight quarters, you probably want a SEAL platoon, right? If you're out in the open or you're working with indigenous forces, you want a Green Beret team. Like we would work with, let's say, the Afghan commandos when I was in Afghanistan, and I have 12 Americans plus attachments. So say we had 20 Americans on the ground with 300 Afghanis on target. Like that's a different type of mission versus a SEAL platoon with 40 guys, all Americans, all unilaterally operating. Like that's, you can do different things. It's different challenges. But it was a really special experience to work with, some of the best humans on the planet.
Incredible.
Now you said, the first part was more like corporate and the special ops was more like startup. Mm-hmm. I've talked to a lot of people that make the transition from military to the business world. And a lot of them have a tough time with it because you really kind of almost develop your own language, when you get started with it so early out of school. And I'm just curious, what was your experience like transitioning from military to the business world?
So, I kind of knew coming out of it, like, I bet working with, civilian employees is probably different than Green Berets, right? Like it's probably different.
Probably.
I don't know, but it's very different and even different than, soldiers or whatever. And I knew that what I wanted to do is what I'm lucky enough to do now, which is work with business leaders and companies to create strong leadership cultures. I knew that that was the business community I could just see in the world, my friends who were out, that people were just craving pure leadership, and there wasn't a lot of people, I think, doing it or even the know-how. They know they want to build great leaders in their company, but where do you start, right? Mm-hmm. So I knew I had these. 14, I crammed probably a lifetime of leadership lessons into these 14 years of my life. But, for myself, before I got out and said, all right, business leaders, let me tell you about real leadership, right? When I've never been in business a day in my life, I thought, what I need to, test out, like what's going to translate, what's not, what I need to learn. I need to make mistakes and learn from them. And so for me, what's the quickest way for me to do all that? It was get a formal education in business. And I thought if I could start my own company and get it self-sustainingly profitable, seems like that's the way to do all those things. And I will tell you that, starting a company with zero business experience is the fastest way to make as many mistakes as possible.
Oh, yeah.
But I got my MBA from UNC Chapel Hill, and then I bought a gym franchise and opened up in Hendersonville. Mm-hmm. And 3 years, did some great things. We were small business of the year. My second year we were there in Hendersonville, cash flowing really
Hendersonville,
well.
North Carolina.
No, Hendersonville, Tennessee.
Oh.
So, yeah, there we go. Yeah. Just up the road. But I made some early mistakes financially, signed like lease deals that were too high, was locked into this franchise agreement. So I couldn't change things that need to get changed. And long story short, it failed. I went through a bankruptcy. I lost everything that I had worked for. And was humbled a bit. And so took those lessons, got new partners, also decided I really want to be in fitness, but it was sort of a fitness martial arts hybrid. Mm-hmm. And, but I loved martial arts. I love, especially Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I got new partners. We started our company, Legion Jiu-Jitsu, from the ground up, and we grew that to 3 locations pretty quickly. And now the largest martial arts single company that owns multiple locations in the Southeast. So 3 years into that, sort of MBA check, business mistakes and successes check.
Right.
And so it's about 3 years ago that I really started transitioning over to what I'm doing now with Stronger Leaders, Stronger Profits.
Right.
Very cool.
So talk to us about Stronger Leaders, Stronger Profits. What is it you guys do?
So we really focused on how do we turn managers into leaders, and it's a clear distinction, and it's almost one that a lot of MBA programs or leadership development programs, they almost start with, but it kind of is always spoke of sort of like theoretically, like, well, what does that really mean? When you get out to companies and start looking at what they're putting into practice and what's happening day to day inside the company, it's almost always defaulted to management. And I've found that, companies that are success, like doing well, just good enough companies, I mean, slowly growing, doing well, they're typically driven by good management practices. But if you look at companies that have long-lasting success, that are really great, that people love to be at, that have low turnover and high engagement, and they're really just those special sort of elite performance type companies, elite teams, you'll find that they're driven more by a leadership-centric culture. So we like to go in and work with individuals and teams and help really start shifting the mindset and then the practices to allow them to unlock the leadership side. Because when you get, to me, management is about optimizing systems, right? And that could be a human system of just people working together. That could be, and I mean, you can manage a hydroelectric dam to maximize its efficiency of 99% of its capability, but you can't create new potential through just management. So I think that's a different is management is really about optimizing systems and the existing systems you have to be as efficient as possible. Leadership is about creating new systems, going into the unknown and navigating change. And I think it's the way to build human potential by changing the way people think about themselves, the organization, and the world.
How do I know I need your services?
What I usually work with is about small to medium-sized companies, maybe 50 to 500 employees, that all of a sudden, or maybe not all of a sudden, but maybe they've had this for a while. Maybe they're a family-owned company that is moving into second generation or something like that, but they're trying to grow and they have multiple levels, and they're struggling to get over that hump to maybe they've got high turnover, maybe they've got low engagement, maybe maybe they've got people who are they're high achievers. People they want to keep around are the ones that are leaving, and the ones that are just sort of scraping by and just doing their job or sticking around. Like, that's an indication you've got a culture that's rewarding people for just doing enough. And so if you're in that space, because they're big enough where they need it, if you're a company, you've got 20, 30 people, if you've got a good, strong founder or leader, you can sort of just like by personality, get things done. But with 100, you start putting 3 levels between the founder, owner, and the individual contributors. You need to develop leaders underneath you. So that's what I'll first go and say, well, what, do you want better leaders inside your company? Yeah. Okay, cool. I think we talked about this before the mice came on.
Right.
Well, okay, what's your process for that?
Yeah.
And usually get blank stares because they don't know how they're actually developing them. And I believe that you should train and develop and really train and evaluate people for a role before you put them in it, not afterward. And that's not what we do in corporate America. We say, you did pretty good here, move on to the next job. And then, in business, there's sort of a classic principle, right, called the Peter principle, which is, you move up through an organization until your point of incompetence. Well, if you're and you see that a lot, right? You'll see the VP who's still just trying to manage individual contributors, because what got him there was he was a good manager, and he was a senior manager, a director, and like he pretty much was doing management stuff, but his team still now he's a VP, but no one ever taught him how to be a VP. Right. That's a different level of leadership. So there needs to be different qualifications and training and mindset that happens at really every level of leadership inside the company, and different expectations.
What's your approach? Like, is it like a Alec Baldwin coffee is for closers, come in, beating the tables, yelling at everybody? Or are you like Dr. Phil and sit down with them and like, tell me about your childhood? Like, what's your approach?
Do you know how much this watch costs?
Exactly. Like, I'm just imagining, okay, staff, we've got the Green Beret coming in, and he's going to change and teach us how to be strong leaders. And make more profit.
Yeah.
Get ready and hold on. I hope you did your push-ups this morning.
Yeah. So
What's that like?
Oh, yeah.
I would be scared to death if I was an employee. I'd be kind of excited if I was the owner, though. I'd be like, "Oh, this should be interesting.
See how this is about to go
Yeah,
down.
like what is it like?" I'm imagining from Alec Baldwin to Dr. Phil. I'm kind of in the middle.
Yeah. So I think it really starts with
what's the experience?
The experience is about shifting your mindset to start thinking of yourself as a leader, and that's a key differentiating factor. Is not thinking of yourself as someone who happens to occupy a management position who now is, I guess, a leader. Like you're just kind of like, I guess I'm a leader now,
Right.
as opposed to like, internalizing what does being a leader look like. And you can just do exercises like think of a manager in your head, just like who is that person? How do they act? How do they talk to people? How do they carry themselves? How what is their mindset look like versus what does a leader look like? And it's interesting that I continue to develop and learn. I've got a system for sort of self-development that is in my book. It's called The Warrior's Mindset: 6 Keys to Greatness. And internally, so if you want to start there in terms of what that mindset is, this is really about how do I maximize my own potential first. And to me, the basis of it all is gratitude and perspective. You can always fall back to that. And I don't think we do that enough. And it kind of gets some like fluff, but that perspective is probably the number one trait, lesson that I got from my time in the military, because
that probably takes people off guard.
Yeah.
Green Beret talking about gratitude.
I mean,
love it
to be living, where we live in the time we live in,
yeah,
because it's too easy to sort of, it takes away the little things, the ankle biters, stuff that gets in your head. You start feeling bad. And it's not toxic positivity. It's just reality. Like there are, would you trade all your troubles for people in Ukraine or Gaza or Haiti right now?
Right.
No.
Right.
And not just gratitude is, I think gratitude drives what I call the obligation of greatness. So
ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah. If you think about the sacrifices from the people who have come before us that have created the highest standard and quality of living we've ever had, that any human beings have ever had. I was doing research for my last speech and found out that over 100 billion humans have walked the earth.
Wow.
100 billion. And just the tiniest fraction of those have enjoyed anything close to the quality of life that we have every day. Most of them had some sort of authoritarian, tribal leader, dictator. They were ridden with infectious diseases. And they had to kill their dinner with pointy sticks. Like that was humanity for almost our entire existence.
We've seen the top of the clouds. We've got Motrin and air conditioning.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, I wouldn't want to live in another era.
And no, exactly. And this time, this location, all the people have sacrificed, who built the technology, soldiers who come before, all of those things just come to say, to whom much is given, much is to be expected. I think some people come and are a little bit like, just as long as you're just you and genuinely like you're enough. Like, yeah, if you're in America, it's not real. I don't think that's true. Like it's our obligation, because we've been given this quality, I have to do something with it.
It's good.
And I think that's by maximizing our own experience of life and maximizing our impact on others. And through doing that, we can achieve fulfillment. And so the path is based in gratitude. The second key to greatness is internal locus of control, right? I'm in charge of my destiny. The world, it's not a victim mentality. The world isn't happening to you.
That's good.
It's about what you do about it, very stoic type principle. And then the third one is my North Star theory. So
like the Cadillac engine?
Kind of. In my book and in my talk, actually, I tell the story of the person who taught me, I think, the path to fulfillment, like life's meaning.
Ooh, do tell.
Yeah, is my chocolate Labrador Java Bean. So, right, because this was years ago, and I had my business that was failing at the time. I was going through a hard time. I get back from a long day's work. I play fetch with her, and I throw the ball. She runs out. She comes back, and she's the perfect dog. She would just chase the ball back and forth, drop it at my feet, right? And those of you who have retriever type dogs, what I'm talking about, like with just a look of pure ecstasy in her eyes. I mean, she would do it until she falls over, right? She's just so into it. And I just remember thinking, I was like, must be nice.
Yeah.
Going through like, must be nice. That's all it takes. Like, to Java ball is life. It's like well, where's my ball?
Right.
Why? What's up with that? And I thought, well, why is ball life to Java? Well, turns out, we basically created the Labrador to go along with English duck hunting in the countryside to go retrieve ducks from your back. So like every cell in her body was designed to go chase this thing and come back. And when you apply this, I think it applies to every living creature that, I think for every living creature is its most happy, content, and fulfilled when its activities and environment are aligned with its genetic purpose.
Mm.
You can think about plants, right? Like you take a plant that's supposed to be in the rainforest, and you water it every day, doesn't do so well. Or excuse me, in the desert, and you water it, doesn't do so well.
Right.
You take one that's meant to be in the rainforest, and you go on vacation for a few weeks, and it doesn't do so well, right? But if you take the one that's meant to be in the rainforest, but the rainforest does well, and the one that's the desert, and they're both fulfilled, right? They're living its happiest life. And during the same time, right after this happened, was COVID hit, and my wife and I got obsessed with the zoo shows. You ever watch like the Zoo San Diego? If you haven't, this is like a great family or like just sit down and watch these. And at the zoos, we'll have to do enrichment activities. So you have like a lion, and you could put a lion and give it free healthcare and free food, and it literally deteriorates and dies mentally and physically. You have to simulate a hunt and then feed it afterward because it's designed to hunt. Lions are meant to hunt, seals to swim, and Labradors to retrieve, right? But so human beings, it's like, well, what are we designed for? And I go back to, Sebastian Juncker and Tribe and other, if you just look at our social sciences, we're communal creatures, right? If you put us by ourselves, if you isolate us without human contact, we deteriorate mentally and physically.
Right.
So that proves that we are designed to be interactive. And, we grew the societies we have now, not as individuals, but by community and people working together. So the North Star theory, what that means for us is, in order to experience fulfillment, your purpose has to be about impacting other people. It can't just be selfish gratification, right? It's not just the next car, the next number in your bank account. Like that stuff will give you a dopamine hit for a short time, but it's never enough.
Right.
It's always the next thing. How do we stop that? But if we have a purpose in our life of how we're going to impact, whether it's just, being a great mother or father or caregiver, or whether it's your community or your church or the world, it doesn't matter, but it has to be something. So the North Star theory and the North Star is that third key. So once we have that, now we're based in gratitude, we're owning up this power that we've created. We've got a direction to go, right? So now we have self-discipline. That's where the military stuff comes in, right? Is, we can have the grandest plans in the world, but if we just sit in our butts and watch Netflix every day, what good is it?
Right.
So that's about putting that North Star into action. And the fifth is perseverance, because when you shift your perspective to just trying to get by and like putting the blinders on the next thing to try to like, I'm going to impact the world. Like my life's going to have me. You're going to hit some blocks. You better toughen up. You better learn how to overcome and build resilience. So those first 5 keys are really about you. And this whole journey brings us to the 6th key, which is where like my business really takes up, which is leadership. Because at the end of the day, if you really want to achieve your true greatness and impact the world, to maximize your impact on others, and I believe maximize your own experience of life, you have to coalesce and get other people to see the vision and go with you and drive them, whether you're inside an organization or not. So I don't believe you can really maximize your true potential without being a leader in some way or form. And that's a mindset shift for most people.
What are some of the typical things you see business owners doing wrong? Like I think a lot of people deal with a lot of the same issues. Doesn't really matter what business you're in. Staffing's always a nightmare. But like, what are some of the typical things? It's like, man, if you guys would just tweak this one little thing, it would make such a big difference.
It's a great question. I get that all the times. Like, so what's the first thing we can do? Right? Like, what's the first?
Right.
Now, maybe people aren't listening for an easy button, but maybe the first one. And I think that the number one thing you can do is establish a strong coaching culture with a system to do that. Like, because I've got this whole model of the optimal organizational function with communication going down and feedback going up, and how the mission and value, how it all trickles down to action, right? And but that communication down and feedback up a loop, along with the professional and development and personal, it all happens with regular developmental coaching sessions. So I encourage companies to shift from performance evaluations to developmental coaching sessions, right? Because performance evaluations by their like very nature are past focused, and it's about a result. What you got this thing done? And but if you just talk through that, you're treating the person like a widget, like just it's a machine, like it's an output, and that's management, and it's okay. And incentive, financial incentives, other incentives like are truly important, obviously, and they do drive behavior. But as human beings, what we want is to look at the past to kind of define where we're at now. But then the coaching session is let's focus on the future, and not just on metrics and results, but that's is the difference between managing the position and leading the human being. And that's what most people like. You need to lead the human being, which means I love dividing the coaching sessions up into sort of two paths, ambitions and aspirations. And I got this from like one of the top world-renowned executive coaches. His name is Marshall Goldsmith. Actually lives in Nashville, and I moved here from California a couple years ago. But he's got a framework of these two A's. And ambitions is, what are you trying to achieve? So sitting down with the people that work for you and say, what are you trying to achieve? Here, outside of here, like where are you going in life? And a lot of times people, they need help defining that. And that's another role of a leader, is like help define what that is. And then so ambitions is, what are you trying to achieve? Aspirations is, who are you trying to become? Those are conversations that you don't need to have in every weekly one-on-one, but without those, how do you know that you're aligning company mission and impact with personal mission? Because what you'll find is when you have those conversations is, you talk about staffing, you have a salesperson who's not hitting numbers, and like, we've got our incentives set up right, and of course they just want to make they just want to make more money, they want to hit their commissions, they want to do whatever. And you have a conversation with them, and they're like, I don't even want to be here. I want to open up my own music studio.
Right.
That's my dream. Well, why aren't you doing that? Well, I need $200,000 to do it. Okay, cool. Let's figure out how fast we can make you $200,000 so you can go chase your dream. That person is now engaged. And if you talk about their metrics and net profit, they don't care. Right. But now you're aligning personal purpose, personal goals, along with organizational goals. And when you align those two things is when you take your company from good enough, from management-centric culture, to greatness, to elite performance. And then it's really leading the human being.
Well, that takes a big thinking, because if you got you're focused on how to get them some money to move on, you got to be confident in what you're doing.
Yeah, but and it's true. But you can have that person who's just like slinking along, they're barely making it, kind of getting behind. You're always getting into, or you're on a performance plan, you're doing it
right.
Like, what's happening? Like, I would rather say, now we're on the same page. Look, if I can have a salesperson that's going as optimally as engaged as they can, but I'm only going to have them for 2 years, that if that person makes $200K in commissions, think of what that return is on for the company, right? And I'll do that all day. You give me another person in 2 years, right? And so it really is about talking to that person, help talk, because a lot of people, they haven't even thought this through.
Sure.
So what are you trying to do? What are your values? What are you trying to accomplish? Here, why are you here?
Right.
That's a conversation we have. Why are you here? What are you trying to do? And then once you help them establish their ambitions and their aspirations, what they're trying to accomplish, and who they're trying to become, and then you help create an action plan in these coaching sessions and give them some accountability and support to help them achieve those things, you're unlocking all new levels of potential and engagement. And those people aren't leaving you for an extra $5 an hour or 10 or 20 or 30 grand a year. Those people are sticking with you, and they're staying with you, and they stay loyal. And then when you sell that company with the next company, they're all coming with you. We all know leaders like that. Everyone wants to follow. Everyone wants to be a part of the organization. And, for most companies, just like improving that 20% can give you a monster return. Because like you mentioned, Gallup had a recent study. They found that there's a 70% variance in performance that is directly attributed to management. So if there's not that many technologies or systems you can put in place that's going to change the output of your company by 70%. But that's the biggest variance you have is the human being inside almost any organization. So if we can maximize that, and then you start solving problems. Then you start you start having direct conversations and transparent conversations. So these little challenges don't turn into epic failures for the company. You address things quickly, you become more efficient, you solve problems, and management doesn't do well with change and uncertainty. Again, that takes leadership, and the world is changing faster than ever.
Right.
So, good luck just sitting here and trying to tweak and optimize the system.
Right.
That's why these companies and organizations are falling behind, instead of having the vision to look out and welcome the unknown and attack challenges and create a learning organization.
Yeah. It's an interesting conversation. I've kind of talked about this with a few people. I feel like there's a lot of time kind of a disconnect for people with what they think they want to achieve and the person that they really want to be. And they don't really put those two together. Like, you've got to be a certain person if you want to achieve a certain thing. Is that the person you want to be? Because just turning yourself into that person is probably going to bring the results you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a key part, right? Like, I would say that management would be focused on, again, just the results you're getting. As a leader, is like, okay, in order to get that result, again, who do you need to become? And that's why I think it's important to, I think earlier we were talking, I mentioned how the levels of leaders, right? And there's really kind of 5 levels in an organization. There's individual contributor, who needs to work and focus on self-leadership, right? And all those dimensions, and their self-discipline and their mindset and their how they're arranging their work day, how they're taking care of themselves, all this stuff. You get that done. And then you have a first line supervisor who just went from like, I'm only in charge of myself to I'm in charge of a team now. That's a different skill set and a different mindset you need to have. Then you have leader of leaders, right? And all of a sudden it's like working through someone else to get a result.
Right.
And that level is usually still within one department, like a director of sales or a director of marketing. They're really thinking inside of their kind of silo. And then your level 4 leaders, like your VPs, those are your cross-functional leaders who actually for the first time are looking, well, how does marketing affect sales, affect finance, affect investment? And that's a different type of thinker and leader. And that's really the first time you have what I would consider an operational level leader instead of a tactical level leader, to bring it back to military terms. And then you have your senior leaders, which are your strategic leaders, right? And their job is to look out into the world, not in the company, but out into the world and where's the ship going to go? Where should we go? What should we do? what are the changes that are coming? How are they going to affect us? And then their job is to turn around to those level 4 leaders and say, okay, here's where the world's headed. Here's the role we're going to play in it. And it's up for those VPs then turn around and take that strategic guidance, and they turn around and then they take their tactical leaders and make them happen. But there's sort of 5 levels in there. And to your point, right? That level 3, 4, 5 leader needs to be further ahead on their mindset and who they are as a person. You shouldn't be having, we see this too much in business, where you've got, maybe a character integrity issue with someone who is in a senior leadership role, and it's catastrophic for themselves, for the organization.
Right.
That development needs to happen early. I really, recently it's funny. I've gone back and I was really studying how can I create a model around what does a leader look like? Because I just talked through like the mindset of that and how an organization runs, but like what are people looking for to become that leader that people want to follow, not have to follow? And I've sort of gone outside the military for years now, studying conscious leadership and mindfulness, and out there like all these like big heady stuff, going to retreats, all that. And then I've recently come back and I started, let me get back to my roots. I started reading military doctrine around leadership.
Oh, wow.
And there was an interesting study there that found that units that have what they call high esprit de corps, right, like pride and buy-in and performance, the soldiers in those units said that they would describe their leaders as having 3 things. Okay, they'd have confidence, competence, and basically like integrity, right? And I was like, that's so true. And then I started doing more, and then out of that and some more studies, I came up with like what I'm calling the 4 C's, which I think are really what you're trying to become as a leader. Because it's nice to say, well, you go through these things and you become a leader, but what are you really looking for? What characteristics? And to me, it's commitment, right, to the mission, to the organization. So commitment to what they're doing, to the people, confidence, competence, and character. And if you have those 4 characteristics, people are going to follow you. And so now it's like, well, how do I get those 4 things?
Right, man. It's like a book.
Well, it is a book.
Reading books.
It is a book.
Yeah,
is it?
I think, it may have to be a book in our book club.
Oh, there it is. There it is. There's the next book for our book club. Look out.
Yes. I know a guy who can get you some copies.
I guess it is.
What's your North Star?
Yeah.
I don't get asked that very often. Do you want to get political? Because it's going to get political here.
Hold on.
Yeah. So I think that oh yeah. I'm a huge, consider myself a patriot, obviously, and I believe in that the power of the United States is in the constant pursuit of a more perfect union, not in settling for what we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I've always been a newsy Politico, I like to read all that stuff, and it's interesting. And I'm just getting, like most people, just infuriated and frustrated with everything. And so, but like what I do with leadership and mindset, I like to just keep digging. Like, let's just get down. Like, what's the cause? What's the cause?
Be careful when you dig. You might find something.
And basically, after doing that, I just came down to we've outgrown the two-party political system. It's the fundamental flaw in our country right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything else is a symptom of that. So you could fight over every little issue you want until we fix that, then nothing else is going to really be fixed.
Right.
And so my goal is, and there's actually, I will make a plug here for a great organization called Veterans for All Voters. It's a nonprofit that I do some work with, and that's their job is to create better elections so that we can create the because right now the way elections are set up, it's basically impossible for an actual third party to come into play.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have open primaries and ranked choice voting, we can create local and state elections that actually elect at least more centrist politicians. Because if you look at any political issue you take in this country, if you poll the population, you get a bell curve, right? We're all familiar with the bell curve. Most people in the middle, a few people on the extremes, left and right.
Yeah.
Enough. But if you pull those same issues with members of Congress, you get a U shape. So it's a complete inversion.
Right.
So if you made it any system and you're like, hey, I want this system to represent this group of people, and it was a complete opposite bell curve, you'd be like, that is a defunct system. That's the worst system you can have. Right. But that's what we had.
Right.
And so that's my long-term North Star is I just want to at least have, I can go to my deathbed knowing at least maybe I helped start the foundation to help change that, because I really think we can unlock.
You want to fix the political system of America.
I want to create the conditions so that we have more than two legitimate political parties, and I think we're getting close. I think people are getting fed up with it. But the one thing about politics in this country, right, is influence, power, and money. Right. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to through the power of leadership and making better organizations, gain enough influence and enough clout, if you will. In Arabic, there's a great word, wasta. It's just like clout and like pride, but just like get enough of that and to help influence that, and along the way, and my mode to get that hopefully wealth and influence is by making better leaders so that we can have fulfillment alongside profitability. Because when you have team fulfillment and company profitability come together, I think you change people's lives along the way. And I think done through I think business is the best way to do it.
Now, obviously there's a lot of changes constantly, for business owners to deal with, AI and, you name it, whatever it may be. Do you feel like there are any emerging trends that kind of affect leadership, or is leadership a consistent thing? Doesn't really matter. That's more of the management side of things. Leadership is a constant. It's
a great question. I think that it's absolutely going to change the way that we need to lead. And if anything, I think what it's doing is it's going to reward the people who do embrace leadership over management. Again, going back to the fact that management is about optimizing systems and result, and it's almost takes the human element out of it. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't do well with change and uncertainty. So I think as the world changes faster, I think those who embrace leadership and the human side of the element are going to have a significant advantage. That being said, I think it's going to change the way businesses functions. Things like AI, you're going to have more distributed teams. You're going to have more people remote. You're going to have even flatter organizations. And, it used to be, right, like you had these hierarchical structures where well, I'm in this position because I've got the knowledge. And I'm here like, dude, everybody's got the knowledge. No, I can look this up, right? I don't, it's not about how much but it's like but what you can't, what can't you Google?
Right.
Can you solve problems that Google and AI can't? Like, no matter how much you use Google or use Chat GPT, that's not going to help you create values to live by. That's not going to help you create the self-discipline to create the behaviors that lead to the results you want. That can't. That's just through leadership, right? And so I think it's just going to drive a bigger wedge between the companies who are kind of clinging to sort of the old way of doing things versus the companies who lean in to their people.
That's good.
Well, it has been awesome talking to you. I think I could sit here and talk.
I was going to say
to them all day, but
far be it for me to keep us on time. I was about to say, I was like, oh, look at the time.
Yeah.
That went quick.
Yeah, it did.
Start getting political all of a sudden. Bam, what's the time?
Give us another plug on the book, and then
that's right.
Briefly talk about your podcast and speaking. How can people?
How can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah. So my book's called A Warrior's Mindset: 6 Keys to Greatness, found on Amazon. My speaking website is seanpattonspeaks.com. I'm doing more and more of that with companies and at functions. So I'd love to come in and be that speaker for.
And Sean is SEAN.
Yes, SEAN. PATTON speaks.com.
Any relation to General Patton?
No, but I'll tell you what, though, I got that question a lot.
I bet you can have a Patton on your shirt every day.
I know I'd be standing there like a parade dress getting hazed by upperclassmen. All of a sudden, they'd be like, "Wait a minute, are you?" Like, okay, I'm gonna go back after me.
You should have said maybe, maybe.
But so that's where you can find me speaking. And then Stronger Leaders, StrongerProfits.com. You can find if you're a company, but really I live on LinkedIn. I not on a lot of other social media. So if you find me on LinkedIn, send me a message. I'd love to chat with you, whether that's working with you in a formal capacity or just helping out leaders that are trying to be better and better their organizations. I'd love to help.
And what's the name of the podcast?
The podcast is No Limits Leadership.
Okay.
Yeah. Check that out. That's on every, all the tubes and all the Spotify's and all the Apples.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, Sean, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity, guys. It was a great chat with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we will see you guys next time. Well, that's a wrap on today's episode of Behind the Curtain, Nashville's movers, shakers,
and taste makers.
We hope you've been inspired by the stories of passion, perseverance, and innovation right here in Nashville.
A big thank you to our guests for sharing their journeys and to you, our listeners, for joining us. And of course, our gratitude to Accord Real Estate for making this conversation possible.
Don't forget to follow or subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform.
Thank us.
Yes, you did.
Oh, I guess I did. Well, thank us. Okay.
Like I was saying.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget to follow or subscribe on your favorite platform to catch every episode and hit that notification bell. We've got plenty more fascinating guests lined up, ready to share their insights and inspirations.
And we love hearing from you. So reach out to us with your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for who you'd like to hear from next.
Until next time, keep chasing your dreams and making your mark in Nashville.
Oh, my goodness.
Remember,
I'm talking to Casey
it's
Kasem.
the people behind the scenes that make the city shine.
I love it. Take care. See you behind the curtain.